Did you know a New York Times best-selling author helped law enforcement solve the crimes committed by one of the most prolific serial killers in American history?
It's such a crazy story, and it's a subject of a new docuseries airing on Starz. And joining us now to talk about confronting a serial killer, our author Jillian Lauren, an award-winning filmmaker, executive producer, and Connecticut native, Joe Berlinger. Thank you so much for being with us, to both of you.
Good afternoon. Nice to be with you. Somebody must have looked in the Wikipedia page. I was indeed born in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and I live not too far from Connecticut in New York State. A big fan of Connecticut, but I only spent 6 months as an infant and as a resident. So that's my claim to fame.
Anyway.
Bridgeport, Connecticut for 6 months.
We are very talented, and we're claiming you anyway. Jillian, it's so nice to see you. God bless you for doing this story and for some of the stories that you've written about and your past. It's just simply incredible. I watched I was telling Kara, we watched the documentary, the first part that Starz allowed us to watch. And I think the thing that struck me the most is, how did this man, Sam Little, get away with so much?
That was the question that drew me to the story. When I first started to investigate him, after I had interviewed Detective Mitzi Roberts, who was the lead investigator who ultimately put him away, I, along with Beth Silverman, the prosecutor, I was in shock. I couldn't. And they felt the same way. These are veteran prosecutors and detectives. No one could believe that he had gotten away with so much for so long. And it was because he was very clever about the communities in which he operated and the victims he targeted, which were marginalized women of color, largely drug addicts, sex workers. He was getting arrested every 3 days for petty theft, but really he was murdering about that often as well. And he was arrested for that too. And and justice was never achieved in any of these cases because the victims were largely discredited due to their marginalized status.
You start going there with the idea of going to his prison, bringing him little gifts like donuts and thinking maybe I could get him to confess. And he actually starts confessing to you. Why do you think, it's like a modern day Clarice, why do you think he decided to tell you the truth?
I never have the exact answer for that. I don't think that I have a magic trick or a Jedi mind trick. I think I listen really carefully, and that I studied it. I studied talking to psychopaths, and I sort of have an innate ability to be able to empathize with things that most people would want to turn their heads from. And he is a psychopath, and I think that he knew all of that immediately about me and decided I was going to be the one that he was going to tell his secrets to. Everyone wants to tell their secrets.
Joe, the film, to put it together, it was an amazing job. Congratulations on doing this. It has to represent some kind of obstacles, though, when you're trying to be so sensitive to the people that have been murdered. I mean, was that a challenge for you?
Yeah, it's always a challenge. True crime, which I guess this is considered true crime. It's a phrase I don't love being associated with, because that phrase conjures up images of entertainment that is wallowing in the misery of others without really any larger social justice lens or purpose. And I try not to do those kinds of shows. So every time I do a show, particularly one with victims of crime, we are constantly asking ourselves, what is the best way to honor these victims? What is the best way to tell this story so we don't sensationalize something that is inherently sensational? And that drives me. And the reason that I wanted to do the show is to shine a light on the systemic problem we have in this country, that not all victims are treated equally. Victims of color, victims, who have drug addiction issues or who are sex workers, when they're found dead, those victims are just not treated as seriously as a white Northeastern collegiate student, God forbid, who would be found, murdered, would be treated. And that's a real problem. It's not just a problem because it's inherently unfair. It's not just a problem because there are other victims besides the victim, meaning family members who must live with the knowledge that justice is not being served. But it also allows a monster to keep living because Sam Little keep killing rather, because Sam Little was just not taken seriously as a serial murderer for decades. The body count escalated, and he spent 40 years, killing with near impunity.
As many as 93 people. Well, it's a gripping story, and Confronting a Serial Killer premieres on Starz on Sunday. Thank you so much for coming on to share a little bit about how you made it.
Thanks for having us.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Congratulations with the piece, too. It's amazing.